What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with MMA community praises Alex Pereira's statement. It remains to be seen if Alex Pereira will remain the UFC's light heavyweight champ following UFC 303. But it certainly seems like Poatan's stock has never been higher after stepping in to help save the upcoming card. Pereira has been receiving truckloads of praise after it was announced he's stepping up on basically 2 weeks' notice to fight Jiri Prochazka at UFC 303. Sure, Jiri has also been getting virtual pats on the back after it was announced Conor McGregor's off the card, but on account of what Pereira's accomplished in less than 3 years of UFC service, the Brazilian's quickly moving into MMA legendary status, if he's not there already. Well, just when you thought Pereira's star couldn't shine any brighter, his recent comments about wanting to fight for a third time in 2024 has the MMA world buzzing again. Yes, recently Poatan reported he wants to rest a little after UFC 303 before returning to the cage in November or December. Those comments prompted even more praise to be sent his way. Case in point, Kenny Florian had this to say in response. Not many fighters have maximized opportunities in this short amount of time like Poatan has in the UFC. Chama. And here's some other responses the MMA community had to Pereira's plans for 2024. It's almost like he realizes it's his job and he has a limited window to capitalize on it. He's what every champ should strive to be. I'm not a fan of his personality, but his hardworking definitely deserves a rest. Him and Izzy both carried UFC for a while. Pereira got an excellent mindset on not wasting the few years he got left to perform at the highest level, something Chandler should learn, but it's nearly too late for him to realize now. If Pereira does defeat Prochazka for a second time on June 29th, it's going to be fascinating to see whether he expresses interest again in fighting for the heavyweight title. Could we see Poatan challenging for a third UFC title before the year is up? Now, let's take a look at Robert Whittaker questions Conor McGregor's decision. The MMA world is still reeling from the news that Conor McGregor will no longer fight at UFC 303, and the news is also prompting discussion regarding what went down and whether we'll see the Notorious One fight again. After all, we've yet to see McGregor fight since he broke his leg in his third bout with Dustin Poirier back in 2021. And due to the mountains of cash McGregor has made via fighting, endorsements, businesses, and now acting, sure, Roadhouse critics may want to see that removed from the list, plenty of people doubt if he's truly motivated to fight at this juncture. Well, recently, Robert Whittaker spoke with the New York Post, and he was asked to weigh in on what's transpired with McGregor and UFC 303. Based on what Bobby Knuckles had to say, it sounds like he wasn't shocked to hear Conor isn't fighting June 29th.
That's the problem with having fights like few and far between, because with such big gaps between them is like the chance of getting hurt, especially in the training we do, in the prep work we do, it's very high. You know, the chances are pretty decent that you'll get hurt accidentally. So, and the fact that he only fights once every few years is like, if that hits on the timeline, then it looked, yeah, this happens. But it is what it is. Dude doesn't need a fight. I don't know why he's fighting anyway. Rich as hell. Like, you know, and I think fighting's one of those games where you need to dedicate every morsel of brain matter and focus and energy you have into the game. You know, that is the sacrifice, is the fact that it consumes you. And he knows that better than anybody else.
It's kind of hard to argue with the former middleweight king on this. Sure, McGregor was forced to the sidelines on account of the devastating injury he incurred at UFC 264. But we're talking about a guy who has fought just 4 times under MMA rules in approximately 8 years. But what do you think? Will we see McGregor fight before the year's up? Okay, now let's discuss Jorge Masvidal goes off on Herb Dean. Herb Dean is one of the longest tenured referees in MMA history and has officiated innumerable massive fights. But you won't hear Jorge Masvidal singing Dean's praises, at least not about how he refs fights. If you've followed Masvidal over the years, you know that he's been critical of Dean in the past, and he's even questioned whether the veteran ref has something against him. One of Gamebred's biggest issues with Dean was in regards to his bout with former buddy turned rival Colby Covington. In that fight, Masvidal took an eye poke in the opening frame, which reportedly did enough damage that he needed laser surgery afterward. Masvidal believes that Dean should have done a lot more about that foul. Case in point, while talking to George Janko recently, Masvidal had this to say when he was asked if he thought the eye poke was intentional.
100%, and it was a good eye poke, because after the fight, I was seeing double vision. It's just like, you know, Herb Dean and me have never gotten along, and I think he's also like one of the worst referees that's ever existed. Like, he has too many mistakes at a high level. Great person, like outside of that. I think he's a great person outside of refereeing, but in refereeing, it's just been like me that he's always had these like weird calls. But that was a seriously good eye poke. Like, I should have had a little bit of time to recoup, not let this guy hug his arms after he just eye poked and then went for a bear hug, you know?
For years, Dean was often praised for his officiating, but in recent years, there's no question he's come under fire plenty of times for either missing calls or for flip-flopping on whether a fight should be stopped. Okay, up next, Sean O'Malley reveals huge news and takes shots at MERAB. We're still waiting to hear word on if and when Sean O'Malley and MERAB Dvalishvili are going to fight, but the bantamweights continue to trade verbal shots via interviews and social media posts. For some time now, there's been plenty of talk regarding who O'Malley will defend the UFC's bantamweight crown against. After Sugar defeated Marlon Vera in March, he called for a fight with featherweight champ Ilia Topuria. But due to MERAB's awe-inspiring 10-fight winning streak, the consensus is he's next for a title shot, and O'Malley has conceded as much. All this has transpired as O'Malley continued to establish himself as one of the biggest draws and brands in the game. Case in point, Sugar recently announced he's gone into business with Jake Paul for a line of deodorant called W, which is apparently sold at Walmart. O'Malley announced the news via social media, and he also took the opportunity to take a poke at MERAB. W co-owner, bathing in all its glory. I smell like 1,000 roses having sex right now. These products are made for champions and efforts that live life to the fullest like me. Vitamin infused to help the 60 to 70% of young men who are deficient in vitamin D and magnesium, and we took out all the weird ingredients our competitors have. Jake and I together will save the smelly. Go to your local Walmart now and run take this ish up babies. P.S. MERAB, you need this stinky boy. There you have it. Now, it'll be interesting to see if and how MERAB responds. One thing's for certain, if MERAB doesn't respond to that post, Sugar's haters will. Now, let's look at Rafael dos Anjos roasts Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's UFC 303 withdrawal has served as fodder for many of his critics, and one man who recently had a zinger for the notorious star was none other than Rafael dos Anjos. Now, if you're an old school fan or have delved deep into MMA history, you know that RDA and McGregor were booked to fight all the way back in 2016. At the time, dos Anjos was the UFC's lightweight champ, and McGregor was the featherweight king. But a couple of weeks out from the fight, dos Anjos withdrew with a broken foot. At the time, McGregor accused dos Anjos of embellishing the injury as a means to duck out of the scrap. Well, after it was revealed that McGregor has dropped out of UFC 303 due to an injury, RDA couldn't let the golden opportunity pass him by. Dos Anjos sarcastically advised McGregor that, "It's just a bruise, take some ibuprofen." Not everyone was a fan of RDA's comments, however. Here are some of the responses it received. Says the guy who pulled out of the biggest payday of his life. "Can't believe you're still salty over not getting knocked out by McGregor 10 years ago. You pulled out because of a shin bruise. He pulled out from complications from snapping his shin. It's not the same. You fumbled and the people will never forget it." This person, however, agreed with RDA's sentiments. "Wow, this hits hard considering I was watching this press conference yesterday. McGregor said, 'Ice works wonders.'" RDA's clapback aside, it'll be interesting to see if and when we'll learn more about the injury that sent McGregor to the sidelines again. Okay, now let's turn to Shara Magomedov praises Khabib in interview. Shara Magomedov continues to prepare for a scrap with Joyton Luderbach at UFC Saudi Arabia. But recently, the rising middleweight praised Khabib Nurmagomedov for what he's done for Dagestani fighters. If Magomedov's name doesn't ring a bell, that could change soon. Last October, Magomedov made his UFC debut against Bruno Silva and handed the veteran fighter a unanimous decision loss. With the victory, Magomedov moved his record to a perfect 12-0. Well, recently, the 30-year-old spoke with Red Corner MMA. While doing so, he credited Khabib for establishing MMA as a path for fame and money in Dagestan.
Бум, ну еще никто не верил, что профессионально это все так может все закрутиться и такие, что деньги будут это все давать, что так вознаграждаться будет, что это уже будет шоу-бизнесом. Тогда никто это не мог предположить. Тогда Khabib, можно сказать, вчистую это вот с лампой в темноте вот так этот тропу прокладывал сам. И мы просто за ним наблюдали, смотрели, как он эту тропу прокладывает в Америке.
Trailblazing a path he did. Not only did Khabib go on to become one of the most famous fighters on the planet, many ridiculously talented fighters from Dagestan have since followed him into the octagon. Bo Nickal's reaction to Khamzat Chimaev pulling out. The fact that Khamzat Chimaev is no longer fighting Robert Whittaker at UFC Saudi Arabia is already old news, but we continue to learn more about who the UFC called when the promotion was frantically trying to save the June 22nd main event. For example, Recently, Kamaru Usman's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, reported the UFC called about the former welterweight champ. Well, rising star Bo Nickal is also reporting the promotion gave him a ring to see if he'd be interested in fighting Bobby Knuckles. During a recent episode of Nickal's YouTube podcast, he confirmed the UFC offered him a nice paycheck to take the fight. The problem was that Nickal was up in the mountains, and he didn't get the messages for several days. By that time, the UFC had already come to an agreement with Ikram Aliskerov. In addition, Nickal also said he wasn't too keen on going all the way to Saudi Arabia to fight. That aside, while discussing the new matchup, Nickal predicted that Aliskerov will hand the renowned middleweight another defeat.
I think it should be a good fight. I think Ikram will probably win.
Really?
I don't know. It depends on how ready he is and stuff, and I just think the style-wise that Ikram will probably win.
Nickal also argued that Chimaev's hype continues to decline, since he's only fought once since 2022. In fact, Nickal questioned whether Chimaev's ongoing medical issues stem from partying too much.
Before a fight.
I've just heard rumors about like him and Till and stuff, like crazy stuff.
Now, Darren Till is a good buddy of Chimaev's, as well as his training partner, and the Scouser fighter has never been shy about the fact that he likes to party. Does that mean that Chimaev's health issues are related? Maybe we'll hear more about these rumors. Khamzat's friend breaks silence on his illness that took him out of his fight against Robert Whittaker. According to Khamzat's friend Abdulaziz Abdulvakabov, Khamzat had a case of food poisoning and wouldn't be able to fight. While he claims he hasn't spoken to Khamzat directly, he says everyone close to Khamzat are saying it was food poisoning. On a recent interview, Abdulaziz had this to say: "Food poisoning is always dangerous. Accepting a fight with food poisoning, Khamzat knew his state. He knew that he wouldn't be able to fight. That's why he called it off." His manager also came out and addressed the retirement rumors, saying, "It's absolutely not true. We're planning on getting to the bottom of the situation, the problems. He will be back." Israel Adesanya reveals next title fight. Izzy posted on Instagram revealing that he will be fighting Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title at UFC 305 on August 17th. Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Dana White breaks silence on the leaked UFC fight between Israel Adesanya and DDP. Dana confirmed that Izzy will fight DDP at UFC 305, but called out Adesanya in the process for leaking his own fight. Here's what Dana had to say.
What about Israel Adesanya? Is he going to get a shot?
Yeah, apparently he already announced his own fight.
Right.
So,
I was going to ask you about that.
He's fighting in Perth. Yes, you'll see him fighting here soon. Where the hell is it? It's over there. Du Plessis, yep. And August 17th in Perth. Now it's official.
Dan, just be glad that he told you. What if he just did the fight and didn't tell you?
Yeah. No, he didn't tell us. I saw that he had announced it. So there it is.
There you go.
Dana White fires back at the MMA community for a rumor. It was rumored that Conor McGregor wasn't actually injured and was just negotiating with the UFC about the fight, and they couldn't come to terms. Here's what Dana had to say to the MMA community.
And do this for me. You put on your tinfoil hat, Dana, because you've heard all the conspiracy theories about Conor. He's not really hurt. He really just wants to negotiate. He really doesn't want to do any of the press. He's really hurt, right?
Conor McGregor, I've said it many times before and I'll say it again. Conor McGregor has never done that. Conor McGregor never leads up to a fight and tries to renegotiate a contract or get more money. He's never done anything even remotely close to that. He is as solid can be when it comes to being a business partner. Conor McGregor is hurt right now. It's absolutely real. He's never done anything like that.
Top comments. Jamal breaks silence? He's been crying for a month. Poatan turned out to be the guy everyone thought Khamzat was going to be in the UFC. Yuri stepped up fearless, saving the 303 card. It's alright, Khamzat, you take care of your health. That's way more important than some belt. Pray for Khamzat. He was diagnosed with a severe case of ligma.